Well, hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the editor of Woman and Home and Woman magazine.
And I'm Ian MacEwan, writer on TV Times, TV and Satellite Week and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases for the week starting Friday the 2nd of February 2024, including new fantasy drama Domino Day on BBC Three and BBC iPlayer, starring Sienna Kelly as a modern-day Manchester witch, and Donald Glover and Maya Erskine teaming up in another remake of spy rom-com Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime Video.
We'll also be checking out the return of Fantasy Football League on Sky Max and Now TV, and sampling some black cake courtesy of Disney+. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Well, hot off the press, Hannah, I've just been to a screening and interviews for a very good new drama series in which Jed Mercurio is involved, he of Line of Duty fame, and it's all about the reality of life on the front line during the COVID pandemic, and stars Joanne Froggatt. So that'll be coming soon to ITV and ITVX. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, John Krasinski and Natalie Portman will star in Apple TV Plus's film Fountain of Youth, directed by none other than Guy Ritchie, about estranged siblings in search of immortality. Aren't we all?
We've all been there. Okay, pretty varied selection this week. If I had to pick a theme, and you often press me to do it, I'd say female empowerment. But let's see how that pans out. We're going to start with a new drama series on Disney Plus, arriving on Wednesday the 31st of January. It's called Black Cake, and here's a clip.
I had to protect you from the life I was forced to have.
I have a way that you can erase all your debts.
My daughter is only 16.
No better age for a wife.
In order to ensure my safety, someone would have to die.
8 episodes of this one. Oprah Winfrey is on board as executive producer, and it spans, 2 timelines. We're not that keen on that, are we, Hannah? And it also takes place in different locations: Jamaica, Rome, the UK, and Southern California. The 2 timelines are the 1960s and the present day, and this is adapted from a best-selling book by Charmaine Wilkerson. Okay, well, that's enough intro. At the centre of it, we have, and this is in the backstory, we have a 16-year-old Covey Lincock growing up in Jamaica. Her mum has disappeared, so she's being brought up by her dad. And he is a gambler. He's in trouble, and to get out of his difficulties, well, he makes some plans for her, which she's not very keen on. And in the present day, the kind of framing device is there's a woman called Eleanor, but she's actually Covey, who has changed her name, started a new life in Europe. She's had 2 kids. So the framing device is she is dying from cancer, and she's sort of left this legacy, these audio recordings for her 2 kids, who are kind of estranged, really. There's Benny, played by Adrienne Warren, and Byron, played by Ashley Thomas. So as they're listening to the recordings, then we're going to see the story of Covey and what happened to her, and how she, left Jamaica, started a new life, etc., etc. And it's kind of about, as so many things are, trauma, long-buried family secrets, and how trauma kind of resonates, reverberates through the generations. So the premise is interesting, I think, but I did find the dialogue a little bit clunky. I found some of the characters a bit one-dimensional, especially the dad, I have to say. But I really liked Mia Isaac as teenage Covey. I thought she was terrific. It didn't particularly grab me. I like the Jamaican backdrop of episode 1. And I also felt with the framing device, you don't really know why these siblings are estranged. It doesn't give you any kind of indication of that. I don't know if the framing device was necessary, really, but no doubt that will all unfold in future episodes. So, yeah, I don't think I will be sticking with it. I don't know what you thought, Hannah.
It's quite hard work, isn't it? I think that's the bottom line. And if you read any interviews with Mia Isaac, you can see that it took its toll on her too, because the story's pretty gruesome. I mean, it's really shocking, her life story. And I think there were therapists on set, and you know, when the director called cut, you know, she'd be shaking from kind of what she'd been having to do. So I think, you know, it's very gritty, and it's a big story, and as you say, she's very good as Covey. But I mean, for me, like you said at the very beginning, we don't really like these kind of, you know, darting from here, there and everywhere. And as you say, the backdrop's quite nice and all the rest of it, of course it is. I don't know. I felt a bit too invested, and I didn't want to be as invested, if you like. It was just a bit too hard going. Often talk about this, you know, when there's lots going on in the world, sometimes you just want to immerse yourself in something a bit happy and a bit smiley and a bit silly. And this isn't that. So I would agree with you. I'm not sure I would stick with this one, although part of me wants to find out what happened.
And incidentally, in case you were wondering, Black Cake is a Jamaican cake, traditional Jamaican cake, and as this is sort of about the Jamaican diaspora, that's why that's the title. Over on Prime Video, arriving on Friday the 2nd of February, we have another new series. You may recognise the title. It's called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and here's a clip.
Have you ever killed anyone?
No. Not really.
Really?
No.
Where do I begin to tell the story of how great love can be?
You're married.
The sweet love story that is older than the sea.
I should be clear, I'm not in this for the romance.
I must admit, when I saw this, I did think, really? It was so good with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, and we all know where that ended up. Do we really, really need another one? And this is different because it's got 8 episodes. It's slightly different, but I still kind of come away from this feeling the same way, if I'm honest with you, because I just don't quite know why it was required. But anyway, I shall try and fill you in on this. So most people have seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad and Ange in 2005, and you know, that was very much about two people who were leading very hidden lives. You know, they didn't know what each other were doing. They didn't realise that they were both kind of secret agents, killers, whatever you want to call them. And in this series, they do. So these two people are thrown together, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, and they play two strangers. They sign up for this job as agents and spies, and they kind of have to adopt these new identities as married New Yorkers, John and Jane Smith. So the premise is very slightly different, and not only is it different, yes, there's lots of action, and some of it I don't think feels that real. It feels a bit out there, but mainly this is and much more focused on their relationship. So they're playing this married couple, but you know, will they fall in love? Is it all a bit predictable? Yes, probably. And it sort of it focuses on that more, well, not more than anything else, but probably certainly more than the film did. And I don't know. I just felt that it was. I just didn't feel we needed another one. It's as simple as that, really. I'm just not quite sure why we were reimagining something and making it slightly different along the way. They played their parts really well. There's some, it's pretty star-studded in there. We've got Sharon Horgan, Alexander Skarsgård. You know, there's some big names in here, and I'm not saying it's bad. I just struggle with why it was necessary. That is all.
Yes, well, you had me at Sharon Horgan, Hannah. Streaming TV continues to plunder old movies. However, I haven't actually seen Brangelina in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I didn't have that feeling that you had of, why do it? Because I'd never seen the original. It starts really strongly. So there's this couple, rather attractive couple, I have to say, living in a house in the middle of nowhere. And it becomes evident that some people are coming to try and kill them. So you're thinking, stand by for a classic shootout, but it kind of undercuts it in the most unexpected way. Anyway, that's the last we see of them. Well, certainly in episode 1. And we switch to these two characters, these two strangers, played by Glover and Erskine, who have basically signed up to be agents, secret agents, and they're going to pose as a married couple. So it is quite weird because you've got to work together, and they've got to successfully convince people they are married, because that's why they want people to masquerade as couples, because it's they're less sort of, they don't stick out as much, do they? They just look like them perfectly normal members of the public. And it's rather sweet, because rather than concentrating on high octane spy stuff, although there is some of that, it's sort of also the more humdrum things like getting blisters because you've been running too much, and there's this rather sweet kind of romantic relationship starts to develop between them as they spend more, and they're very chalk and cheese characters. But yeah, I actually thought it was rather different take on the spy genre, and as you say, some terrific guest stars. Paul Dano, I mean, there's some real Hollywood royalty. John Turturro, Ron Perlman, wow, our own Michaela Cole, Sarah Paulson. So a terrific cast, and also Glover, who is known for Atlanta. He co-created the series, so it's very much his baby. So yeah, I did like it, and I would recommend it. We shift over now to Sky Max and Now TV, Hannah, for the return of Fantasy Football League. Then here's a clip.
Brilliant finish from a brilliant young player.
Unbelievable!
Anthony, just get rid of me!
Penalty. No penalty.
This is almost fantasy football.
Well, back in the day, Hannah, you probably remember, can't remember what channel it was on, I'm guessing Channel 4, Frank Skinner and David Baddiel presented the original Fantasy Football League show, which was a great programme for footy fans. It was kind of clips, sketches, stats, banter, and it just really tapped in to the fun side of being a football fan. And of course, Sky have rebooted it now with Matt Lucas, who I'm sorry to say is an Arsenal fan, but never mind. And one of my favourites, the lovely Elis James, who presents the fantastic John Robbins and Elis James radio show and podcast. He supports Swansea City. That's perfectly acceptable. And so they've teamed up, and they've been pretty faithful to the original. And I've always thought about David Baddiel. I am a David Baddiel fan, but I think he's made some good career choices. So first he hooks up with Rob Newman and was massively successful as a comedy double act with him. And then he hooks up with Frank Skinner, and not only did Fantasy Football League with him, but that spawned Three Lions, the hit England football song. Remember that summer of '96, Hannah? Oh, heady days. Anyway, as I say, they've remained pretty faithful. They've got a kind of stato guy chipping in. They're doing the sketches. They're doing impressions of footballers and football managers. It's already funny. They do Phoenix from the Flames, where they recreate an iconic football moment on the pitch with the player who was involved. One rather controversial thing that happened in the original series, of course, David Baddiel, recently he's been criticising Bradley Cooper for what he calls Jew face, for playing a Jewish character, a Jewish person in Maestro. Well, of course, David Baddiel blacked up, didn't he, to impersonate a footballer, and that resulted in the footballer getting a lot of racist abuse. So, yeah, quite interesting talking point there. So we can look forward to some good special guests. We've got Danny Dyer, we've got Emmanuel Petit, you've got Jermaine Defoe, Sean Bright-Phillips, Wes Morgan, Jack Wilshere. So, I mean, if you liked the original, you'll love this, because I think they've done it justice. They've really kept the spirit of the original thing, and it's a fun show. I'd say even if you're not a massive football fan, it's very entertaining. Hannah, are you a fantasy football league fan?
Yeah, you're right. You do not have to be into football. I mean, football is on a lot in this house, but you don't have to be a football fan to watch this. I like these kind of sports things, actually. They're really fun. I mean, I was a massive fan of Frank Skinner, I must admit. So it was kind of, when new people come in, you kind of worry, don't you? But there is that comedic value, and I don't know, and Danny Dyer's a part of it, so there's not what could go wrong, really. It's I don't know, I just. It's an insight, but it's light-hearted. There's something for absolutely everybody. I think it's something that everyone can watch sitting down together. Really like it.
Good stuff. Okay, we're going to finish over on BBC Three and BBC iPlayer with a new fantasy drama called Domino Day. And here's a clip.
We've been watching you. You're doing something to humans. But you don't want to be. I feed off of others. What am I?
You're a witch. I'm a witch too.
Humans and witches can never make it work.
We need to hand her over to the elders.
No, we need to protect her from them.
When I first read about this, I must admit I did sort of raise my eyes slightly and think, oh, here we go again. But I was wrong. You should never, ever judge a book by its cover, as your parents once told you. Because this is quite exciting. So this is about somebody who is a witch, a lonesome witch with a ferocious appetite, and she's preying on Manchester's single men. It's a 6-part supernatural drama, and it's from Gangs of London writer Lauren Sequeira. And the young witch, Domino Day, played by Sienna Kelly, is she's a big user of dating apps, but the thing is, when you get to see her, you don't think she is on the hunt for victims in many ways. She sort of seems quite sweet and nice, but she needs to have victims to feed from in order to stay alive, like a vampire, I suppose. And so her strategy is to, because she seems nice, is to target the city's sort of nasty, unsavoury single men, to suck the energy out of them. But it doesn't really work like that, because this coven of witches are hot on her heels, and they're determined to stop her before she destroys everyone around her. And her superpowers are beyond that of other witches. And you can see her actually forming connections with blokes, but not, she's gonna suck the life out of them, basically. And she knows that, and she does. And there are times she doesn't want to do that. And then you see her teaming up with another witch, and the powers, and it's quite raunchy in places. It's really quite sexy in places, and it completely threw me, because it was everything that I didn't expect it to be. It's really dramatic, but you also there's a lot of emotion in here. Do you feel sorry for her? Do you hate her? Do you love her? And then there's this awkward sort of relationships that she's having with people. And as I say, they're quite a sort of kind of erotic nature of this at times as well. So I thought it was really quite good, but something that I didn't expect to like, and something that is very different for me.
Well, I forgot to mention that it arrives on Wednesday the 31st of January on BBC Three, but all 6 episodes will be available to stream on iPlayer. So yeah, witches and vampires have been pretty well served in TV and film, haven't they, Hannah, with mixed results. I think this is an interesting new twist on the horror genre. People who suck the energy out of you, Hannah. We've all been there, am I right? But yeah, it's a nice premise that it is a bit of female empowerment in it, because these guys are kind of our sexual predators, really. And she's flipping it, and she's preying on them. So I do like that. I like the fact that the coven of witches are botanists, of course. So we're linking to that kind of, the plant power and potions and that kind of thing. And they look great there's kind of like a voodoo vibe to their costumes and makeup, which is good. So I think it's sexy, it's stylish, it's a new twist on a very familiar, well, it's a bit of a genre mashup in a way. But yeah, I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised, and I thought Sienna Kelly was great and very limber in the lead role. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the heck you've been binging on this week. I think I know one of the things you've been binging on.
Well, who didn't watch the Traitors final? Maybe you, Ian, actually. But who didn't watch it? Absolutely brilliant. Also watched Pan, stumbled across that.
What's that?
And it's the prequel to Peter Pan. And also I stumbled across this thing called Wipeout, which I think we've chatted about before, but honestly, it's absolutely hilarious. It's just basically an assault course that people have got to get over. And it's a horrible, and they've got to get there. It's $50,000. No, was it 90,000? A lot of money anyway, that they win if they get to the other side. So I watched that for a good giggle, seeing people literally being wiped out. How about you?
Good stuff. And I must big you up, Hannah, because you did a one-off binge-watch podcast with the lovely Steve Perkins and Faye from Series 1 of The Traitors, which is available, so do listen to that if you are a Traitors fan. I managed to get to the end of Harlan Coben's Strangers, and my goodness, it was quite hard work. That's on Netflix. Also on Netflix, because I went to see Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, which is terrific, and it's getting a lot of awards action. I thought I'll go back to The Favourite, which also stars Emma Stone and is from the same director, which has become available on Netflix. Now we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings. So what are we going to be talking about, Hannah?
Amber Kermode and Leo Woodall star in a new adaptation of David Nicholls' best-selling romance One Day on Netflix.
And I think I know who's going to be getting this one. A group of party animals attempts to run a busy bar on a Greek island in Ryland Clark's new reality show Hot Mess Summer on Prime Video. What could possibly go wrong?
I am there.
So we very much look forward to that in particular and much, much more. But listeners, in the meantime,
watching.